You've done everything right. You eat carefully. You move when your body lets you. And still, every morning, that belly is there. Bigger than 5 years ago. Bigger than it should be. Maybe a doctor even told you, just eat less, move more. And you wanted to say, I am. I already am. You're not imagining it. You're not failing. And you are not alone. What's happening in your body after 60 is real. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what it is and what you can do about it, starting tonight. Here's what I need you to hear, as your doctor, speaking directly to you. That belly is not your fault. Not willpower, not laziness. Your body is responding to specific biological changes that happen after 60. Changes that no amount of salad or morning walks can fully override on their own. But here's what changes everything. Your body is not broken. It has built-in mechanisms that work for you, quietly, efficiently, while you sleep. Activate them, and the results can begin as soon as tonight. I've seen this work for patients in their 60s, 70s, even their 80s. Let me show you exactly how. For decades, we've been told belly fat is a storage problem. You ate too much, moved too little, and your body stacked it there, like boxes in an attic. That is not what the science shows. Your belly fat, the fat deep inside your abdomen, around your organs, is not passive storage. It is active, living tissue. It has its own hormone system, its own inflammation signals, and it responds to one thing above almost everything else: cortisol. You've heard it called the stress hormone. And yes, anxiety spikes cortisol. But here's what nobody tells you. Cortisol also rises when you don't sleep well, when you eat too late, when your bedroom is too warm. Your body treats all of it exactly the same way. Now, here's where it gets critical. Research from the National Institutes of Health shows that deep abdominal fat cells, visceral adipose tissue, have 4 times the cortisol receptors of fat anywhere else on your body. 4 times. When cortisol rises, for any reason, at any hour, your belly fat is 4 times more likely to absorb it, 4 times more likely to grow. And it goes deeper. Those same fat cells contain an enzyme, 11-beta-HSD1, that manufactures its own cortisol locally, inside the fat cell itself. So even when your blood work looks normal, your belly fat may be running its own private cortisol supply. This is why 2 people can eat the same diet, follow the same exercise routine, and one carries it all in their belly. It is not about calories. It is about cortisol. A landmark study tracking over 604,000 adults found that people sleeping less than 5 hours a night had a 55% higher risk of obesity. And the fat they gained didn't spread evenly. It gathered specifically around the waist. Every additional hour of quality sleep corresponded to a measurable reduction in belly size. Not weight in general, belly size specifically. A 6-year study from Quebec confirmed it. People sleeping 6 hours or less had significantly larger waists than predicted, even when total body weight was controlled. The real villain? Not food, not laziness, disrupted nighttime biology. When your nights are off, poor sleep, late eating, a warm bedroom, cortisol stays elevated when it should be falling. Your belly fat receptors stay hungry when they should be resting. And your body, doing exactly what it's designed to do, keeps storing. But when you work with your nighttime biology instead of against it, cortisol drops. Your body shifts from storage mode into repair mode, and that deep belly fat begins to respond. Tonight, I'm going to show you exactly how. 3 evidence-based strategies, ranked by impact, that you can begin the moment your head hits the pillow. Before I walk you through the 3 strategies, I've saved something for the very end of this video. I call it the Nocturnal Cortisol Reset. It's a 2-part bedtime routine. It takes less than 10 minutes, and it directly targets the cortisol spike that happens in the late evening, the one that feeds your belly fat while you sleep.
Not a supplement, not a tea, nothing to buy. A precise sequence of 2 things you do before bed. One physical, one environmental, that lower your evening cortisol, signal your brain into deep restorative sleep, and shift your body from fat storage to fat burning before you even close your eyes. Patients tell me this routine changed their sleep within the first week. And when sleep improves at 60, 70, 80 years old, everything changes. Energy, mood, and yes, that belly. But I'm saving it for the end, because to understand why it works, you need the 3 strategies first. They're the foundation. The Nocturnal Cortisol Reset is the key that locks it all in place. Stay with me all the way to the end. I promise. Let's start with strategy number 3. Strategy number 3 is one of the simplest things you will ever do for your health, and most people over 60 are doing the exact opposite without realizing it. The temperature of your bedroom at night. I know what you're thinking. I like to be warm when I sleep. Extra blankets help me relax. Many of my patients feel the same way. But here's what's happening inside your body when your room is too warm, and why it may be quietly keeping that belly in place. You've heard of white fat. That's the fat you can see and feel, including belly fat. White fat stores energy. It holds on to calories like a savings account. But your body contains a second type of fat, brown adipose tissue, or BAT, and it does the opposite. Brown fat's entire purpose is to burn energy and generate heat. Brown fat cells are packed with mitochondria, your cell's power generators. They contain a special protein called UCP1 that acts like an open furnace door. Instead of storing calories, it releases them directly as body heat. White fat is a savings account. Brown fat is a fireplace. And cold activates it. When your body senses a temperature drop, your sympathetic nervous system sends a signal to your brown fat cells. Noradrenaline is released. UCP1 switches on. Your body begins burning glucose and fatty acids, including fat mobilized from your belly, simply to maintain your core temperature. This is called non-shivering thermogenesis. Your body generating heat without exercise, without effort, just from sleeping in a cooler room. Here's the clinical evidence. Researchers used whole room indirect calorimetry, a sealed room that measures every calorie a sleeping person burns with extraordinary precision. When participants slept in a room cooled to 61, 66 degrees Fahrenheit compared to a neutral 75 degrees Fahrenheit, their overnight energy expenditure increased by an average of 188 calories per night. 188 calories while sleeping, just from a cooler room. Over 30 days, that's more than 5,600 calories burned purely from adjusting your thermostat. The caloric equivalent of roughly 1.5 pounds of fat per month. Not from dieting, not from exercise, from sleeping cooler. And the fat your body preferentially burns during cold-induced thermogenesis? Circulating fatty acids released from visceral, deep belly fat. Now, here's what's critical for those of you over 60.
As we age, brown fat goes dormant. Decades of warm bedrooms combined with hormonal shifts cause it to stop being recruited. It doesn't disappear, it just stops working. The good news, research shows it can be reawakened. Consistently sleeping cooler over several weeks gradually restores brown fat activity. Once active, it stays active, working for you every single night. There's also a powerful synergy with strategy number 2. When you haven't eaten for several hours before bed, your body has already redirected blood flow away from digestion. That makes your brown fat even more efficient during cool overnight exposure. The 2 strategies amplify each other. Now, an important note for anyone with circulation issues, arthritis, or cold sensitivity. You do not need to be cold. You need to be cool. The target range, 61 to 66 degrees Fahrenheit, is not uncomfortable for most people once they adjust, and the adjustment takes only a few nights. Here's how to do it gently. Start where you are. If your bedroom is currently 72, 74 degrees Fahrenheit, don't drop it all at once. Lower it by 2 degrees every 2 to 3 nights. Most patients find that within 1 to 2 weeks, a cooler room feels more natural, and their sleep quality improves alongside it.
Use layered, breathable bedding. A lighter blanket over a cotton sheet lets you adjust without fully waking. Core stays cool, extremities stay comfortable. If you have Raynaud's disease, poor circulation, or cold sensitivity from thyroid issues, speak with your physician before making this change. And if lowering the thermostat isn't possible, a small bedside fan directed away from you creates enough air movement to produce a similar cooling effect. Here's the image I want to leave you with. Tonight, while you sleep, your body is either storing or burning, either in cortisol-driven accumulation mode, quietly adding to that belly layer by layer, or in thermogenic repair mode, firing up your brown fat furnace, mobilizing fatty acids, working on your behalf. The difference between those two states can be as simple as the number on your thermostat. That is strategy number 3. Now, strategy number 2. This one surprises almost every patient I share it with, because it has nothing to do with what you eat. It has everything to do with when. Strategy number 2 is something I wish every doctor had time to explain to every patient over 60.
And I want to say this clearly, because I know how hard it already is to manage eating with medications, appetite changes, family routines, and everything else life brings. I am not going to ask you to eat less. I am not going to ask you to change what you eat. What I'm going to show you is that the timing of your last meal, specifically how many hours pass between dinner and bedtime, may be doing more to grow that belly than almost anything on your plate. Researchers call it the dinner to bedtime interval, and the science behind it is both fascinating and almost completely unknown. Here's what happens inside your body when you eat close to bedtime. Food triggers digestion, glucose absorption, and insulin release. Under normal daytime conditions, this runs efficiently. Insulin carries glucose into your cells, your pancreas and liver work in smooth coordination. But here's what changes at night. Your body runs on an internal clock, your circadian rhythm. As evening falls, your brain's master clock releases melatonin. Most people know melatonin as the sleep hormone. But melatonin does something else almost nobody talks about. It directly reduces insulin sensitivity in your fat tissue. Research, including studies using direct biopsies of human adipose tissue, confirmed that melatonin actively downregulates the insulin signaling pathway in fat cells within just 1 hour of exposure. In plain language, as melatonin rises each evening, your fat cells shift into storage mode. They become biochemically primed to accumulate, not release. Eat a meal during this window when melatonin is rising and insulin sensitivity is falling, and the glucose and fatty acids from that meal have nowhere efficient to go. They circulate longer, they store more readily. And because of everything we've already learned about visceral fat's hormonal sensitivity, they are disproportionately directed toward your belly. Here's how this was proven in a clinical setting. The Dinner Time Study, a randomized crossover clinical trial published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. 20 adults, 2 identical meals, same calories, same foods, same portions. The only difference? Timing. One group ate dinner at 6 p.m. The other ate the exact same dinner at 10 p.m. Sleep time was fixed at 11 p.m. for both. The results were striking. The late dinner group showed an 18% increase in peak overnight blood glucose. A 10% decrease in dietary fat actually burned, tracked using precise isotope tracers following fat molecules through the bloodstream. Triglycerides were still circulating at high levels deep into the sleep period, and overnight cortisol levels were significantly elevated. Same food, same calories, same people. A 4-hour difference in meal timing produced measurably worse fat metabolism, higher cortisol, and reduced fat burning, all while they slept. For those of you who've been told you're pre-diabetic, insulin resistant, or at risk for type 2 diabetes, this matters even more. A large-scale study found that a short dinner-to-bedtime interval was directly associated with impaired glucose tolerance and significantly higher risk of metabolic syndrome. In adults with existing insulin resistance, meal timing and sleep duration together showed a correlation with insulin resistance of -0.581.
That is a strong relationship in medical research. Plain language, eating closer to bedtime makes insulin resistance worse. And insulin resistance is one of the primary drivers of visceral fat accumulation. For those of us over 60 whose insulin sensitivity is already naturally declining, this is not a small detail. It is a major lever. A quick note on melatonin supplements, because some of you may be taking one. Under normal circumstances, taking melatonin and then eating dinner shortly before bed is counterproductive. It amplifies the insulin suppression in your fat cells that we want to avoid during digestion. However, for those with irregular schedules, frequent travel across time zones, or significantly disrupted sleep cycles, research shows melatonin taken approximately 90 minutes before a late meal can act as a protective stabilizer, improving glucose tolerance and reducing post-meal triglycerides in those specific circumstances. If that sounds like you, speak with your physician. So what's the practical recommendation? A minimum 3 to 4 hour window between your last meal and bedtime. Bed at 10 p.m., finish eating by 6 or 7 p.m. Bed at 11 p.m., finish by 7 or 8 p.m. Bed at 9 p.m., finish by 5 or 6 p.m. If this feels like a big shift, start small. Move dinner back by 30 minutes for 1 week, then another 30 minutes the next week. Small, sustainable shifts your body and your household can absorb. If medication requires food close to bedtime, ask your pharmacist whether a small, low-carbohydrate snack, a few nuts, a small piece of cheese,
could satisfy that requirement without triggering a significant insulin response. Many medications that require food need only a minimal amount. And if a late dinner is unavoidable one evening, a celebration, a family gathering, enjoy it without guilt. One late dinner does not undo your biology. It's the chronic nightly pattern that matters. Here's the thought I want to leave you with. Your body has a preferred schedule. It was designed, over hundreds of thousands of years, to eat with the light and rest with the dark. Every cell in your digestive system, your liver, your pancreas, your fat tissue, they all carry their own internal clocks, synchronized to that ancient rhythm. When we eat late, we're not just adding calories at an inconvenient time. We're sending a confusing signal to every one of those clocks, telling our liver it's midday when it's preparing for midnight, telling our fat cells to store when they were preparing to rest. But when we honor that window, when we give our body 3 to 4 hours of digestive quiet before sleep, we are working with biology that is hundreds of thousands of years old. And biology that old is very, very good at what it does. That is strategy number 2. Now, strategy number 1, the foundation of everything. The strategy that, when it's missing, makes all the others work half as well. And when it's present, it changes not just your belly, but your energy, your mood, your memory, and the entire quality of your life after 60. Strategy number 1. I saved this for last not because it's the most complicated, because it's the most important. Everything we've talked about, the cool room, the dinner timing, the cortisol, the brown fat, all of it works better, faster, and more powerfully when this one thing is in place. Deep, restorative sleep. I know that for many of you, sleep is not a simple topic. It hasn't been for years, maybe decades. You lie down exhausted and your mind won't stop. You fall asleep easily, but wake at 2 or 3 a.m. and stare at the ceiling. You sleep a full 8 hours and wake up feeling like you barely rested at all. If any of that sounds familiar, you are not alone, and you are not broken. What's happening is biological, and it's specific to life after 60. Sleep is not a single state. It's a series of 90-minute cycles your brain moves through repeatedly across the night. Light sleep, deep sleep, and REM. Each stage has a specific job. Light sleep is the transition. REM consolidates memory and regulates emotion. But deep, slow-wave sleep, that's where your body does its most critical physical repair. Growth hormone is released. Cellular damage is repaired. The immune system resets. And your brain's glymphatic system activates, your overnight cleaning crew, flushing out metabolic waste and inflammatory proteins that built up during the day. Here's what changes after 60.
In young adults, slow-wave sleep represents 20 to 25% of total sleep time. By our 60s and 70s, that can fall to as low as 5 to 8%. A 70-year-old sleeping 7 hours may be getting as little as 20 minutes of truly restorative deep sleep per night. 20 minutes. When deep sleep is insufficient, growth hormone is blunted. Cortisol fails to reach its overnight low. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, rises. Leptin, the satiety hormone, falls. Insulin sensitivity deteriorates further, and your body, running on shallow, fragmented sleep, shifts into a low-grade stress state that elevates cortisol across the entire following day. This is the cycle that drives belly fat in older adults. Not one bad night, the chronic, quiet accumulation of nights where deep sleep never fully arrives. Now the research. A landmark meta-analysis pooling data from over 604,000 adults found that short sleep duration was associated with a 55% increased risk of obesity, and the fat accumulated specifically around the waist. A 6-year longitudinal study from Quebec following 276 adults found that people sleeping 6 hours or less had waist measurements significantly larger than predicted by their overall body weight. The belly was growing independently, driven entirely by sleep deprivation's hormonal effects. And a study measuring overnight growth hormone secretion found that even a single night of disrupted slow-wave sleep reduced growth hormone release by over 60%. 60% from one night. Growth hormone in adults is not just about muscle. It is the primary hormonal signal that instructs your body to mobilize and burn stored fat, particularly visceral abdominal fat. When it's suppressed night after night, the fat mobilization signal never arrives. The belly fat stays, and it grows. Now, something deeply underappreciated in senior health: the relationship between sleep and inflammation.
Visceral fat releases signaling molecules called cytokines, including interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha, that promote chronic low-grade inflammation throughout the body. Poor sleep independently raises those same inflammatory markers. So in a body that is both sleep-deprived and carrying excess visceral fat, you have two separate systems generating inflammation simultaneously. That inflammation feeds back into cortisol production, which feeds back into visceral fat accumulation, which generates more inflammation. A biological loop, and breaking it requires addressing sleep, not just diet, not just exercise. Sleep. The Nurses' Health Study, one of the longest-running women's health studies in history, following over 68,000 women across 16 years, found that women sleeping 5 hours or less were 15% more likely to become obese and 30% more likely to gain 30 pounds or more, compared to women sleeping 7 hours. And critically, this held even after controlling for physical activity and caloric intake. Sleep predicted belly fat accumulation independently of what these women ate or how much they exercised. Sleep was its own variable, its own driver. So what can you do, practically, tonight, to begin improving sleep quality after 60? 4 evidence-based practices. No equipment, no prescriptions, no dramatic overhaul. First, light exposure management. Your brain's master clock sets your entire sleep-wake cycle based on light signals. Bright blue spectrum light in the evening tells your brain it's still daytime, suppressing melatonin and delaying deep sleep. The practice? In the 90 minutes before bed, reduce overhead lights and screens. A single warm lamp instead of ceiling lights signals evening to your brain. If you use a phone or tablet, switching to night mode has been shown in clinical studies to meaningfully improve melatonin onset timing. Second, sleep schedule consistency. Of all factors governing sleep quality in older adults, none is more consistently supported by research than regularity. Same bedtime and wake time every day, including weekends, anchors your circadian rhythm with extraordinary precision. Irregular sleep timing is independently associated with higher BMI, higher fasting glucose, and higher cortisol, even when total sleep duration is controlled. Your body doesn't just need enough sleep, it needs sleep at a predictable time. For those who've retired and lost the structure that work once provided, I cannot emphasize this enough. Choose a bedtime and a wake time.
Protect them like appointments. Your biology will thank you within days. Third, magnesium. Magnesium deficiency affects an estimated 70 to 80% of older adults, partly because aging reduces absorption, and partly because many common medications, including diuretics and certain blood pressure drugs, deplete magnesium stores. Magnesium activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and digest state. It regulates the GABA receptors that promote calm and sleep onset. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial found that magnesium supplementation in older adults significantly improved sleep efficiency, sleep time, early morning awakening, and melatonin levels. Magnesium-rich foods, dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, almonds, black beans, are an excellent, safe starting point. If you're considering a supplement, discuss it with your physician first, particularly if you have kidney disease or take medications affecting kidney function. Fourth, and perhaps the most powerful for breaking the cortisol belly cycle, sleep hygiene anchoring. A consistent pre-sleep ritual. The same sequence of calming activities done in the same order every night trains your nervous system to begin down-regulating cortisol on cue. Research published in Sleep Medicine Reviews found that multi-component behavioral sleep interventions, including consistent pre-sleep routines, produced improvements in sleep quality comparable to low-dose sleep medication in some measures, without the side effects, without the dependency risk, without the morning grogginess that sedative medications frequently cause in seniors. Your ritual doesn't need to be elaborate. It needs to be consistent. A warm bath or shower 90 minutes before bed, which paradoxically cools your core temperature as you exit, triggering sleep onset signals. A few minutes of gentle stretching or slow breathing. The same sequence, the same time, every night. Consistency is the signal. The ritual teaches your nervous system. This is when we let go. Before we move to the close, I want to speak to you directly. If you've been struggling with poor sleep for years, if you've tried medications that left you groggy or dependent, or been told poor sleep is simply part of getting older, I want you to hear this clearly. That is not true. The research does not support the idea that poor sleep is inevitable in aging.
What it shows is that sleep architecture changes with age, and those changes require a different approach. Not surrender, a different approach. The 4 practices I've just shared are not theories. They are evidence-based interventions tested in clinical trials with adults in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. They work, they are safe, and they are available to you tonight. Your belly is not the enemy. Your sleep is the missing piece. That is strategy number 1. Before I share the Nocturnal Cortisol Reset, I want to give you something first. Close your eyes if you're comfortable, and just breathe with me for a moment. In through your nose, slowly, and out through your mouth, gently. One more time. In and out. Good. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that guided visualization, deliberately imagining a positive physical outcome, activates the same neural pathways as actually experiencing it. Your nervous system does not fully distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. Same cortisol-lowering response, same parasympathetic activation, same signal to your body that it is safe to rest, repair, and release. This is not a break from the science. It is an extension of it. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, not with that familiar heaviness, not bracing yourself for the edge of the bed. Rested, genuinely rested, the way you remember feeling years ago when sleep actually felt like sleep. The room is cool and quiet, and before the day begins, you just notice how your body feels. Shoulders soft, not braced, not tight. Mind clear, not foggy, not racing. And as you sit up, slowly, gently, you notice something different. Less heaviness in your middle. Not gone overnight, but less. Something that has been held tight for a long time, beginning very gently to let go. You move to the mirror, not with dread, but with something closer to curiosity. And what you see is a body that worked for you last night, while you slept,
while you rested, while you did nothing at all except give it the conditions it needed. Your brown fat fired quietly in the cool room. Your melatonin rose cleanly because dinner was done hours before. Your growth hormone moved through your bloodstream in the deep hours, mobilizing, repairing, instructing your belly fat to release. Your lymphatic system swept through your brain, clearing the inflammation that had been building for days. All of that happened while you slept, and it will happen again tonight, and the night after, and the night after that. This is not a dramatic transformation. It is something quieter and more lasting. Your biology, ancient, intelligent, extraordinarily capable, finally being given permission to do what it was always designed to do. Take one more slow breath. Feel the weight of your body where you're sitting right now. Feel your feet on the ground. And know, with the same certainty I carry as a physician, that what begins tonight is real. It is supported by decades of peer-reviewed science, and it belongs to you. When you're ready, bring your awareness back to the room, because I have one final thing to share with you. The Nocturnal Cortisol Reset. You've earned it. And after everything we've walked through today, you're going to understand exactly why it works. Let's finish this together. The Nocturnal Cortisol Reset. Let me tell you why I named it that, because the name tells you exactly what it does. Nocturnal, because it works specifically in the evening hours, between your last meal and the moment you fall asleep. This is the most hormonally sensitive window of your entire 24-hour day. What happens here determines whether your body spends the night storing or burning. Cortisol, because that is the specific hormone we are targeting, the master switch. When it drops in the evening, as it should, everything else falls into place. When it stays elevated, everything else is fighting uphill. Reset, because that's precisely what this does. Not suppress, not eliminate, reset. Returning your evening cortisol curve to the shape it was designed to follow. A clean, steady decline, reaching its natural overnight low by the time you're deeply asleep. 2 steps, done in sequence, every night. Step 1, the 4-7-8 exhale protocol. Here's what happens when you breathe slowly and deliberately, particularly when your exhale is longer than your inhale. Your vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, running from your brainstem through your chest and abdomen, is directly stimulated by slow, controlled breathing. When activated, it releases acetylcholine, the primary brake pedal of your sympathetic nervous system. It slows your heart rate, lowers blood pressure, and signals your adrenal glands, the organs that produce cortisol, to reduce output.
Research published in Frontiers in Psychology confirmed that slow-paced breathing at approximately 6 breath cycles per minute produced significant reductions in salivary cortisol, with effects measurable within 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Here's how you do it. Sit on the edge of your bed, or lie down if that's easier. Close your mouth. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Hold gently for a count of 7. Exhale completely through your mouth for a count of 8. That is 1 cycle. The extended exhale is the key. It's the exhale, not the inhale, that activates the vagus nerve most powerfully. The 7-count hold builds a mild carbon dioxide pressure that deepens the vagal response further. 8 complete cycles, approximately 4 minutes. You don't need to count perfectly. You don't need a clock. The rhythm is what matters. Slow in, gentle hold, long out. If the 7-count hold feels too long at first, reduce it to 4. Build up gradually over several nights. Many patients report feeling their shoulders drop, physically, noticeably, within the first 3 or 4 cycles. That is your adrenal glands receiving the signal. That is cortisol beginning its descent. For those with COPD, asthma, or other respiratory conditions, do not hold your breath.
Simply inhale for 4 counts and exhale for 8, without the hold. Similar vagal activation, entirely safe for most respiratory conditions. As always, consult your physician if you have any concerns. Step 2, the thermal cue. Less than 5 minutes, and it works through a mechanism sleep researchers call distal vasodilation, the widening of blood vessels in your hands and feet. Your core body temperature must fall by approximately 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit in the early evening to trigger deep sleep onset. This drop is not incidental to sleep. It is a prerequisite for it. Your body achieves this by redistributing heat outward, from your core to your extremities. Blood vessels in your hands and feet dilate. Heat flows outward. Core temperature drops. Sleep follows. In younger adults, this happens efficiently and automatically. But in adults over 60, particularly those with poor circulation, reduced autonomic function, or chronically elevated evening cortisol, this process is significantly impaired. Core temperature stays elevated longer than it should. Deep sleep is delayed, sometimes by hours. The thermal cue accelerates it deliberately. Immediately after your 4-7-8 breathing cycles, fill a basin or bathroom sink with comfortably warm water, not hot, approximately 100 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, what feels pleasantly warm without any discomfort. Submerge your hands and wrists, up to mid-forearm if possible, for 3 to 5 minutes. That's it. The warm water triggers immediate peripheral vasodilation. Blood vessels open. Blood flow surges to the surface. Your body interprets this as an opportunity to offload core heat, and does so rapidly. Core temperature begins to fall. Your brain receives the drop signal. Melatonin release is enhanced, and the pathway to deep, slow-wave sleep, where growth hormone flows and belly fat is mobilized, opens cleanly. A landmark meta-analysis published in Sleep Medicine Reviews, analyzing 17 separate clinical trials, found that warm water immersion of the hands and feet in the 60 to 90-minute window before sleep accelerated sleep onset by an average of 9 minutes and significantly increased slow-wave sleep duration. For a senior currently getting as little as 20 minutes of deep sleep per night, increasing slow-wave sleep duration is not a minor benefit. It is transformative. After your hand soak, dry your hands gently. Move directly to bed. Your bedroom is already cool from strategy 3. Your digestion is already quiet from strategy 2. Your cortisol is dropping from the breathing. Your core temperature is falling from the thermal cue. Your body has everything it needs. Let it work. This is the Nocturnal Cortisol Reset. 4-7-8 breathing, 8 cycles, 4 minutes. Warm hand soak, 3 to 5 minutes. Into a cool bedroom. Into rest. Less than 10 minutes. Every night, starting tonight.
I've watched patients in their 70s, people who hadn't slept deeply in years, report meaningful changes within the first week. Not because it's magic, because it's biology, because it works with every system we've discussed today. The brown fat, the melatonin window, the growth hormone, the cortisol curve, and pulls them all into alignment at once. That's the power of a reset. Not one thing working in isolation, everything working together. You now have everything you need. And I want to ask you one final thing. Not for me, for someone else. I want you to think of someone. Not a stranger. Someone specific. A friend who mentioned last time you spoke that they haven't been sleeping well. A sister who has tried every diet and can't understand why her belly keeps growing. A neighbor who moves a little more slowly than they used to. A spouse lying next to you every night, quietly struggling with the same things you came here searching for answers about. Think of that person right now. Because everything you learned today, the cortisol connection, the dinner timing window, the cool room, the deep sleep, the nocturnal cortisol reset, none of it is yours alone to keep. This information lives in peer-reviewed journals most people will never read. In clinical trials, most doctors never have time to translate into plain human language during a 15-minute appointment. In research databases that require a medical degree just to access. You found it today, in language you could understand and use. And somewhere in your life, I am certain of this, there is someone who needs it just as much as you did. Sharing this video costs you nothing.
10 seconds. And for the person on the other end, the one waking at 3 a.m., the one pulling their shirt away from their waistband, the one who's been told there is nothing more to be done, it could be the thing that changes everything. Please, share this with them. Send it to the friend, text it to the sister, leave it on the screen for the spouse. Post it for the people in your life who are quietly struggling and haven't found the right words to ask for help. Not because it helps this channel, because that is what we do for the people we love. We share what has helped us. We say, here, I found something.
I thought of you. And if you'd like to continue this journey together, if you want more science translated into gentle, practical guidance designed specifically for life after 60, I would be honored to have you here. Subscribing simply means that the next time I find something important in the research, something I believe you deserve to know, it comes to you, quietly, without you having to search for it. That's all it means. A door left open between us. Click subscribe if that sounds right to you. And if today helped you, if something shifted, even slightly, in how you understand your body and what's possible for it, leave a comment below. Tell me what resonated. Tell me what you're trying tonight. Tell me who you're sending this to. Because this is not a one-way conversation. I read these, I learn from them, and your words shape what I bring to you next. You came here today because something in you believed there was still an answer. There was. There always is. Sleep well tonight. Your body knows exactly what to do. I'll see you in the next one.